But what I really wanted to do was implement technology into my classroom. And so what I chose to do was to use the iPad Pro and use the content that it's able to do with the iPad Pencil to create digital resources for my students who miss. I know a lot of teachers have students who miss consistently. In fact, I have a student that's homebound right now, and so they're not getting the content that they need, and that's really taken a big effect on their learning. So by using the iPad, I'm now able to construct all of my lessons online, so they're always getting the information that they need, and they're not being left behind even if they're not in the classroom. So I had a bunch of pictures of my students, but it's okay. I know what they look like. If you guys don't, it's all good. Come to Jackson, you'll see them. So I will talk about one thing, and this is the biggest thing that I've used while teaching. So if you notice, whenever you're writing on a board, oh, hey, it's coming back up, neat. But whenever you're writing on a board, you're turned around, and you never get to see what your students are doing. When you're using the iPad, you get to stay right at them, and you also get to allow them to become the teachers. And to me, that's the biggest thing. So where we have all this information going on with Bevan, not a lot of people are too excited about becoming a teacher, but it's still good to allow students the opportunity to try to become a teacher. And so, in my opinion, getting to let them teach some of the content that we talk about shows a big difference in just me talking about it as opposed to them talking about it. So, I guess, you guys are good? I mean, it's not a big deal anyways. But what I did find out from this grant is that students do prefer getting to teach. And it's a shame that everything going on in the state's making people want to get away from teaching. But when we give students the opportunity, we allow them to keep focused in class, and we also allow them to essentially get used to what it feels like to be a teacher. And for $1,000, I think it was worth it to be able to see some of my students getting to teach other students and seeing what it feels like to be a teacher. So you all can take a gander at this. There was more pictures, but it's okay. It's not a big deal. I'm basically done now, so. This is what it looked like. This is the same iPad, so. This is some content. This is just for my pre-calc classes, talking about limits as n approaches infinity. If you want, you can take a gander at it, draw on it. And I chose the iPad Pro because the iPad just get to use the regular pencil. The regular pencil has a stylus, it's not too good. Whereas when you're a math teacher, it's more precise if you're getting to draw the shapes that you're using. Oh yeah, there's me. There was some students a minute ago. And using Google Classroom is basically the biggest thing that has really improved. Since I can create all my notes online, every student gets it. Even if they're not there, or even if they're there, they now get to see my notes. And there's a student teaching. So that was my comparison of it. So out of my 65 responses of all my students, about 70% felt they preferred the iPad. And if you go to the next slide, you'll notice a bunch of reasons why they chose it. Some people just said they liked it better. Some people didn't like it. If you're looking at a TV all day, probably going to hurt your eyes. And that's what some people felt. But overall, a majority did prefer it. These are a couple of the apps that I like. Camera, Google Classroom. If you teach in high school, having all your content available in one spot, it's the bee's knees. Google Drive, really important, especially if you have a bunch of content that you're always wanting to use. Our school uses Google Drive consistently. And GeoGebra is just for math. If you don't like math, it's okay. But for me, it's a blast. And like I said, this is penultimate right here. It's my writing app. As long as you have an iPad, a TV, and I use Apple TV, it shows all my content on the TV, so students get to see it right as I'm writing it, or as they're writing it. And I'd say next, but I guess he's not here anymore. Oh, okay. This is what the application looks like, so click next again. Wow, he can hear me. And you already see my notes because they're right there. So click next again. And I just said that, click next again. The biggest thing that I haven't discussed was NTI. So I don't know if your all school uses NTI or not, but we do. And since I can now create every single bit of my NTI work just from my iPad, it allows everybody to get it almost instantaneously. As soon as I'm done with writing it, they have it. And to me, being able to implement this and allow every student to get it as soon as I have it, it's the biggest thing.